This podcast includes graphic depictions of true crime cases and may contain explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
Your only chance to evacuate is to leave with us. Planet Earth about to be recycled. Your only chance to survive or evacuate is to leave with us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Saw the Devil. This is Robin.
And this is Jackie.
And this is the final episode of our Heaven's Gate series.
I'm sad.
I know.
The journey ends here.
It does. It has been an absolute mind-blowing experience to research and deep dive into Heaven's Gate, and I learned so much. It has been a journey. So before we get into that, let's just get our really quick housekeeping out of the way. You can follow us at WeSawTheDevil.com on Facebook and Twitter. You can hit us up on Instagram at We Saw the Devil Podcast, and you can find our website at We Saw the Devil. If you have questions, concerns, comments, compliments.
Compliments are always welcome.
And you can email us at info@WeSawTheDevil.com. Furthermore, our $50 mystery box. You only have a couple more days to enter. We will be making the decision in 4 days on October 15th at midnight.
I mean, it literally could be just a box with $50 written on it, but that's not the case. I'm actually going to do something really special inside.
So if you want a $50 true crime mystery box with God only knows what's inside, and in order to enter, we will be picking one person on October 15th at midnight. All you have to do is leave us a review and send us a screenshot to any of our social media channels. Or you can email it to info@WeSawTheDevil.com. We are super stoked to be putting this together. And if you're enjoying the show and want to become a part of the team, don't forget about our Patreon. Patreon supporters get postcards, ad-free episodes, true crime gifts, and really cool stuff. Also, another perk to being in our Patreon is if you're liking the cult series and enjoying hearing about Heaven's Gate, if you join our Patreon, you can actually vote for the next cult that we cover. If you have one that you're super interested in and you want us to talk about it and deep dive into it, you have a chance to vote. Also, final piece, don't forget that we are also doing the Vallow for Dummies series. If you, like everyone else, have a really hard time explaining to your friends or coworkers or family members the little details of the Vallow case because it's so expansive and just insane, this is the podcast for you. So we did a very light introduction on the overall state of the case this week, and next week it will begin. So we are going to deep dive from the very, very beginning and put all of the pieces together with everything that we know now. Onward to Heaven's Gate. We left off in the last episode in 1994, just as the group was reconvening. And they, at this point, had ads on multiple television channels. They actually bought time to air their videos and their sermons. They also even had a picture ad in USA Today, which got a lot of press. So now we are still back in 1994, and the group at this point starts magically selling all of its possessions, and they decide to hit the road for a speaking tour. They already had their PR and media tour in newspapers, New Age magazines, and TV slots, so now they decide it's time to hit the road and start speaking to people one-on-one. Also at this time, Marshall Applewhite. Now, if you recall in the previous episodes, there are periods, especially after Bonnie Nettles' death, where the power dynamics were challenged. People were tired of the rules. The no sex, no drugs, no drinking, no fraternizing with fellow members. So now that the group had a great deal more press, Marshall Applewhite just put the iron fist down. So he instated a whole new list of rules and claimed that the time was really drawing nigh and that they had to work extra hard on purifying their souls. These are the new transgressions at the time. Lying to Professor Doe, which, if you recall, Doe is the name that Marshall Applewhite goes by, his alias, his nickname. Keeping an offense to oneself and not sharing it with others. Acting on sensual or sexual desire.
Oh, that's no fun.
Right. Violating procedure. Not checking with another member if an action one is about to take is acceptable. Trusting one's own judgment. Being defensive with class partners. Criticizing others. Being selfish. Suggesting an action or behavior. Exaggerating the reactions of one's vehicle. aka body, having preferences, seeking approval and wanting to be perceived as good by others, being too familiar with the other students, being aggressive, being concerned with your appearance, and being curious.
Could you imagine this as a dating profile? What kind of dating profile can you make up for somebody following these rules?
Oh my God, I almost want to make a fake dating profile on Tinder or something and then just have looking for partner and then just copying and pasting all these rules. So something that I found most interesting about the rules is that Applewhite explicitly forbade any member from interacting with the audience in their speaking engagements. And this is the reasoning that he gave. Heaven's Gate's members had to neutralize the negative effects of Lucifer, who was in the room with them in the form of the audience. The audience was too corrupt, and fraternizing with them or speaking to them in any way would corrupt their souls and basically reverse all the work that they've done while they were in Heaven's Gate.
Were they allowed to do drugs?
No, they were allowed nothing.
I would need drugs to imagine that, to be honest.
It's absolutely insane. And what I found most interesting about that is that Marshall Applewhite obviously had the Christian background, right?
Yeah.
Bonnie Nettles had the more spiritualist, new age, ghosts and aliens and all that.
And now she is a ghost.
Now she is a ghost. But when she passed away, when she died, Marshall Applewhite had to change pretty much the entire belief system to fit because she died and they weren't supposed to die. And so you see the base of Christianity, peeking and poking in here. And later in this episode, this is why this episode is going to be so meaty and so important in all of this, is that we're going to go over all of their beliefs, like from A to Z, everything that they believed. It's going to be really interesting going through that, but I do find the fact that Christianity peeks its, head into basically their entire belief system to be kind of just like, wow.
If you want to be a Christian, right?
Right. I find it so weird that you're a UFO cult. Like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, the UFO thing is it's unique in its own regard. I feel like this was the first time I ever heard of any type of extraterrestrials meeting Christianity.
Yeah, it's really odd.
It was insane. I remember it was all over the news.
Mm-hmm. To give you an idea of just how much Marshall Applewhite strong-armed the group, in a 2002 Guardian article titled Heaven's Gate Survivor Keeps Faith, they explained that something as simple as deodorant. If a member wanted a new bar of deodorant, they would have to submit a written request to Marshall Applewhite and indicate that to the best of his or her knowledge, there was no more deodorant. They had to write basically a freaking essay on how they know that there is no more deodorant and that it has to be purchased. Every single penny was controlled and money was only spent on absolute necessities.
That sounds miserable.
Yeah. So in January of 1994, and then for the 9 months after that, the group sold all of their possessions again and hit the road. They visited 22 states and 63 cities.
That's quite the road trip,
yeah. To recruit followers. And Heaven's Gate's last official event was in Boston at the tail end of 1994.
I just imagine all these greasy people in a mystery van just traveling all over the place with like a little like alien hats, maybe little tinfoil hats.
Like the Scooby-Doo van.
Yeah, exactly.
So after they got off of the speaking circuit, they went through a process like they did before, right? In the previous episodes of where they became a little nomadic. They would rent a small space or sleep in a park, and they would get just odd jobs here and there. Well, now they're renting small homes and then also office spaces in order to run their business Higher Source. We touched on Higher Source in the previous episode, but we're going to go a little bit more into that rabbit hole now. According to Rolling Stone magazine, Heaven's Gate was the first well-known American cult of the internet era. The reason why that is that pretty quickly, like as soon as the internet came out, they got a website and it looked like crap. It was terrible. But not only were they doing their new age spiritual stuff, they were also, almost all of them were actually very skilled web designers. They really were a collective group of programmers. But who paid for those services? It's not who you would actually expect. The San Diego Polo Club, a local topiary company, and then also a Christian music store, all paid for Higher Source to create websites for them.
What? That's so random.
Yes.
I wouldn't have anticipated that whatsoever.
And many of the members were proficient in like Visual Basic, SQL, Java, and C++. In an ad for one of their services, because they would continuously put out ads for their company, they said, quote, we're proficient in Windows 95, Novell NetWare, and Unix, to name a few. They also did systems analysis, created multimedia applications, and had a full suite of graphic design. They were really able to go above and beyond with every single contract, and they actually got really good reviews and feedback because overall it was a one-stop shop. There were over 30 people living together in the homes or the offices that they rented, and almost every single one was proficient in graphic design or programming, so they really had their stuff together. Another one of their ads said, quote, we have focused on outgrowing the artificial limitations this society has programmed all of us to accept in personal conduct and task efficiency. We can produce at a level of efficiency and quality unequaled in the computer industry.
But did they?
If you look at all of their websites, they were actually very poor designers. I know a lot of us think of GeoCities websites, how limiting they were back in the day and how they all have a certain look about them. But Heaven's Gate, through Higher Source, their company, they really weren't that good. But again, it was just the new age of the internet. So you could literally just take a line and paint and people were like, wow.
Yeah, very 8-bit design back then. And very, the color palette was very limited as well. You got to remember, like a lot of these websites back in the day, right? Like the Heaven's Gate website is based on the concept of what your computer monitor used to be able to handle back then. And it was very limited.
Marshall Applewhite actually approached the internet and technology as one would say like Star Trek. It was a way to basically insert UFO theology and the spaceships and the UFOs and their religious beliefs with something as vast and expansive as the internet. So he really tried to kind of make that parallel between the two. Now, if you really want to feel bad about yourself in your life, let me drop this on you.
Oh, no.
It's said that during this time, during the year of 1995, the group made $450,000 just from web design alone.
Why do you have to put me down like this?
I know.
Why do you have to make me feel so tiny?
I feel personally attacked. Now I need to go watch something like 90 Day Fiancé to make myself feel better about my life. But web design wasn't the only thing that they did. In between all of their jobs and contracts, they were still preparing for their ascension, and Marshall Applewhite was still running the entire show. Now, between their spiritual work and the web design, the group had very little free time, and one way that they actually spent their downtime was by watching TV. Every single week, they watched episodes of Star Trek and X-Files together in their theater room that they had in one of their houses.
In 95, I'd be down for that.
Yeah. They did occasionally go to Las Vegas to the Stratosphere Hotel, but outside of the obvious irony behind that statement, I can't find any underlying reason that was given or deeper meaning as to why they did that. So what did the group believe? We've, discussed how they've grown, how they've moved, how they've traveled, all of their speaking engagements over the last 4 episodes. So what exactly did they believe? We are going to break it all down. Most people, myself included, when I actually started researching this, only aware of the UFO, trailing behind Hale-Bopp, but it actually goes so much deeper than that. To quote a researcher from the University of Ohio, quote, Heaven's Gate members thought that Earth was to be essentially restarted, and the only way to save their consciousness would be to ascend to a next level. Applewhite and Nettles themselves belonged to that level. Originally believing that a spaceship would come and deliver them to this next level, Bonnie Lou Nettles' death in the 80s caused a slight shift that they would have to part their bodies and humanity in order to ascend. This culminated in the belief in the ship following Hale-Bopp, and that by willingly leaving their bodies when the comet passed close to Earth, they would reach this ascension. And again, ascension, in Christian belief, refers to the ascent of Jesus Christ into heaven on the 40th day after his resurrection.
See, I didn't know that, and now it makes perfect sense why we keep hearing that verbiage being used in a lot of these cults. I was like, wait, well, where's that from?
So they believe that the Earth's present civilization is about to be recycled, or what they called spaded under. This is mankind as we know it, you, me, the physical world that we live in. Our world, guys, back then was apparently going to be refurbished. The human weeds have taken over the garden and disturbed its usefulness beyond repair.
I can agree with that.
Yeah, I can't say. So, on board so far. The human kingdom was designed and created as a stepping stone between the animal kingdom and the evolutionary kingdom level above human. Evolutionary kingdom level above human. That's also known as the true kingdom of God, and I will refer to it as such from here on out because that is way too much to say. So think of the true kingdom as sort of a heaven with aliens. It's their heaven, and then the good alien civilizations, like the one big one that created everything, is in this true kingdom, this heaven. As the human goes out to choose servants from within the animal kingdom, from beasts of burden to seeing eye dogs, if that animal grows to find pleasure only in serving its master, it no longer identifies as an animal, but sees itself as a family member in that human family. Its behavior is pleasing to that human, so the two become bound together. Say, like a human and their pet. So say you and your dog or cat. The human family then provides a body, a human infant, for that soul to enter, allowing it to move up into the human evolutionary kingdom.
Now, this is where it gets creepy, right?
Yeah.
And weird.
So basically, if you get a dog or a cat or a pet or whatever, and you form a bond with your pet, which you probably do, that means that if you have a child yourself, or let's say you complete your life cycle and you die and you're reborn, your pet will actually change over its soul to the human world. And then therefore your pet can become a human and then travel up the chain and hopefully go to heaven one day.
You know, this is what I imagine all the time.
Right?
I look at my dog and I'm like,
I have a body for you. Now, this isn't to say that most humans are just reincarnated animal. Most humans are just containers for the returnees. So say that you had lots of sex, you did drugs, you drank, you had a happy life, and you reached the end of your road. Guess what, guys? You're not getting into the true kingdom.
what kind of Tupperware container would Courtney Love be?
Oh, God. In that case, you would basically, upon your death, you would be pretty much recycled and start all over. Born as a baby, come back up. And basically, you're just going to keep being reincarnated, your soul on this earth, until you get your crap together. Periodically, a member of the true kingdom, say like someone who's already made it, aliens or just humans who've ascended, they receive instruction to incarnate among the humans. And their goal is to seek out tagged humans to give them a little nugget of knowledge concerning the truth about how we are created, the true kingdom, and so on. That human then wants to connect with a teacher. So in this case, this is Marshall Applewhite calling himself a teacher and saying that his flock, his students, want to come connect with him so they can learn the truth. If that human follows all of the rules and changes their behavior to the degree where they no longer desire any human behavior, a bond is formed. So a bond is formed between them and their teacher. And that person will then have a body belonging to the true kingdom reserved for them so that their soul can move up into it. Now, here's the thing about the true kingdom. They are not human, and we'll get to that in a moment. Their entire belief system is vessel is your physical human body, and you are going to shed that when you die or ascend. Both the human kingdom and the true kingdom are physical and biological. However, the human kingdom is made up of mammalian bodies, so seed-bearing plants or containers. The true kingdom is made up of non-mammalian, non-seed-bearing bodies or containers for souls. Because, again, don't forget, no one is procreating or having sex. The children of the true kingdom are those who have graduated from the human kingdom under the tutorship of someone who is already in the true kingdom. A student or prospective child of a member of the true kingdom, with the help of older members, overcome all human mammalian behavior. That includes sexuality, gender consciousness, and all other addictions and ties to the human kingdom. Older members, such as, obviously, Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Lou Nettles, are experienced what they called clinicians. And they basically help humans and their souls go through a weaning. They help them withdraw from humanness and other, quote, misinformation concepts. Again, the student must complete this complete change. They must get to the point where they hate human behavior before their soul can become a match with the biological body from the true kingdom.
This is the weirdest deflection that anyone's ever done.
Man, just admit you're gay and move on.
Right? Why can't you just
stop being so self-loathing and it'll be okay, I promise. They must complete this change because the new genderless body is designed to function at a far more refined level. The true kingdom is the headquarters of everything that is. It's a many-membered kingdom which physically exists in the highest, most distant heaven. It's a non-temporal place outside of time and outside of space, and therefore, basically, it's eternal life. It is the only place from which souls, life, and all of creation originates.
Which episode on Star Trek was that?
They actually nailed down a couple pieces of their belief systems that they come from, influenced by Star Trek.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah. So if a human in the human kingdom does well, they can then move up to the true kingdom. It's non-perishable and non-corruptible world. And so that's what everyone was looking for. So if you're good, you don't have sex, you become basically just a shell of a human being, you too can go to the true kingdom. Now, for the rest of us, or all of the other souls who don't try to do that or reach a certain degree of corruption, which corruption means utilizing your own free will to become totally separate from the creator. And this is knowingly or not. Were you just an unlucky SOB who didn't get the message of Heaven's Gate? Well, too bad for you, you're gonna die.
Dang it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And so for all of us heathens, eventually when the end time comes, when, this age ends, we will die when the earth is recycled.
We may as well just heathen it up. We're already there,
The term true kingdom of God is used repeatedly in almost every one of these tenets because there are so many space alien races that through the centuries of civilization have represented themselves to humans as gods. They are collectively referred to by Heaven's Gate as, quote, space alien races in opposition to Next Level.
I feel like they know something I don't know.
Yes. And these aliens, they're not the good ones. They're bad. They are not genderless. They have gender, male, female, and they actively reproduce.
Whoa.
They have become nothing more than technically advanced humans. So they basically still, what's the bad thing? Being human, having human instinct and behavior and desires. These bad aliens have limited abilities. So they have limited space-time travel, telepathic communication, travel hardware like spacecrafts, like their spacecraft sock. And the true kingdom of God, it has the only truly advanced space-time travel vehicles or spacecrafts. And none of those aliens are interested in creating signs, crop circles, anything like that, because they are not what Marshall Applewhite referred to as they're not interested in impressive trickery, okay?
Oh.
They have better things to do with their time. Apparently, these malevolent space races are humans' greatest enemy. They hold humans in unknown slavery only to fulfill their own desires.
I knew something was wrong with today.
They even try to make deals with human governments to permit them, space aliens, to engage in biological experimentation through abductions in exchange for things such as technically advanced modes of travel. So what he was saying is that there's an evil race of aliens out there, and they actually work with governments, and they work out abduction deals.
That's kind of cool.
So that they can abduct people in exchange for more technologically advanced spacecrafts.
What kind of barter is that? like let me take some and pluck out some people and we can barter that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They apparently fight amongst themselves over the spoils of the earth and use religion and increased sexual behavior to keep humans, quote, drugged and ignorant while thinking that we are in God's keeping.
I kind of woke up feeling a little more enslaved by aliens today.
Yeah, just a little bit more than normal, though.
Yeah, just a little more oppressed.
What Marshall Applewhite was saying is that all of the naysayers, all of the people who call UFOs and aliens bullshit, they're Luciferian. They are of the evil space race. And I love how he, again, uses Christian theology to explain and describe evil space races.
That's his origin.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why he suppresses himself so much.
Mm-hmm.
And this madness came out.
Right.
Wow.
Just as the biological body is the container for your soul, the soul is the container for your spirit. The mind of the adversarial space races gives you misinformation. It promotes the behavior and concepts of the corrupt world, sex, drugs, talking back, caring about your appearance, all that stuff.
I'm learning so much about myself.
The mind from the true kingdom yields true information, which apparently lines up magically exactly with Marshall Applewhite's list of rules that he forced all of his followers to abide by. As we change as humans in the human world, our percentage changes of what occupies our soul. If the truth increases, then our soul gets pure. If misinformation increases, then our soul becomes less pure. So it's apparently in Marshall Applewhite's world a complete struggle. You're constantly working on getting your soul as purified as possible. Now, if one chooses to revert back to humanness, they're like, screw this, I'm out, peace. I'm going to go live my crazy life as I see fit. The process reverses. The truth is aborted. Like, well, everything that you learned from him is gone, and your soul becomes more filled with the mammalian human mind. So you're more corrupt. Now, the design of the true kingdom of God permits the presence of an adversarial element during a human civilization as the primary catalyst for growth. Basically, the true kingdom allows these evil space races to live among us, to influence us, just so we'll grow.
Oh,
isn't that nice of them?
Yeah, I'm so grateful.
Without the adversarial alien races, we would not have choices or a right to free will. We couldn't exercise our free will. So our right choices are what find us in alignment to receive the information when the truth is offered to us. Also, 2,000 years ago, the true kingdom appointed an older member to send a representative, who referred to as his son, along with some of their beginning students, to incarnate in a garden. Move over, Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
So in a riff on Jesus, here's Applewhite's take. While on Earth as an away team with their captain, they were to work on their overcoming of humanness and tell the civilization that they were visiting how the true kingdom of God can be entered. The humans under the control of the adversarial space races killed the captain and his crew because of the blasphemous positions they held, and quickly turned the teachings of the captain into watered-down country club religion that obscures the remnants of the truth. And this is kind of directly held, on Jesus, is that Jesus knew the truth. Jesus came down to preach the truth. People in the human world killed him and then turned Christianity into a, quote, watered-down country club religion that's hiding the truth.
How dare they?
So Jesus was apparently part of the true kingdom. So again, more influences from him and his Christian upbringing and background.
This is insane.
This changeover, this world, all of this, the age is ending, it's nearing completion. And before this away team returns, representatives of the class are instructed to put this information before the public. The way that Marshall Applewhite brought this information, basically he's the teacher trying to give all of the information to us before it's too late. Like, he's doing us a favor.
He's the clinician.
He's trying to help people. Also, humans of the civilization, like our world, have periodically been given laws by the next level to upgrade their behavior. So, for example, the laws given to Moses in the Bible were elementary commandments designed to make order and raise the standards of a very young society. Then, some 2,000 years later, the true kingdom, through Jesus' teachings, brought major updates. The greatest commandment is to, quote, love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. That's Matthew chapter 22, verse 37. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother and his wife and children and brothers and sisters, and even his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. That's Luke 14:26. Those wanting to go with him had to do as he did. His teachings clearly spelled out the requirements for making the literal and difficult transition from the human kingdom into the kingdom level above human. So basically, he even utilized biblical verses from Matthew, Luke, and a couple other books to justify how he was this godlike figure that everybody needed to drop everything for and follow. He even supported his own doctrine of cutting off contact with your family by using Bible quotes.
Oh, that's pretty evil.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, he used the Bible, again, to justify a lot of his rules.
Crazy brainwashing stuff.
Also, money rules. So again, we've already touched on how he controlled all of their money and finances.
Deodorant.
Marshall Applewhite thought that the monetary systems, and this includes like indebtedness, ownership, insurance, he thought that they all bind man to servitude, which I can't disagree there.
No.
The powers behind the money, he said, have discovered man's most tempting addictions. And through advertisement, movies, television, radio, publications, newspapers, all of those things feed these addictions with the excitement of sex, drugs, and violence.
Woo! Sorry, I got excited. What?
These three things, sex, drugs, and violence, ensures continued monetary power. So under the guise of the, quote, social norm, this same world also imposes us distorted religious concepts. And their selfish pursuits corrupt and pollute the physical environment. And that's a term that Marshall Applewhite frequently brought up, quote, the social norm, the social norm. The social norm to him was evil. It's this entire society that's been created based on media and, to him, a fake religion and sex. And again, sex is at the center of everything.
It's so crazy how he manifested all of this because he wanted to have sex with guys.
Yeah, I mean, he wanted to have sex with men and he couldn't because of his family and the time period. You know, this started in the early 70s and Christian upbringing, and he became so self-hating and self-loathing that this is the result of it.
And why couldn't he just be one of those people that just hit himself with a switch or something instead of demanding everyone around them get castrated and stuff? Like, crazy. I know we haven't quite gotten there yet, but I just want to be like, hey, that's crazy.
So how did he feel about other religions? The pure information is sent by representatives from the True Kingdom. But all religions that were originally based upon this information that these representatives brought, they've been targeted. And you know those Luciferians, like the evil space alien races? Apparently they've been creating misinformation campaigns to change and butcher the message. Islam, Judaism, Christianity, Catholicism, Taoism, Buddhism, Hinduism, all of those religions, according to Marshall Applewhite, were based upon his religion, his belief system, but the evil aliens butchered the messages on purpose. So that's why they're all splintered, have like common themes, but why they're also splintered. So he actually blames the evil aliens for changing and diluting his message.
Oh my God, we're just victims of aliens. We've been divided, people. We've been toyed with. Wake up.
He said that true Christians cannot be found among the religious who put human family values on the ultimate pedestal. So if you're married, have children, have a job, if you even wake up in the morning and you're like, oh crap, my hair is a little out of place today, you're a bad person. And so he said that you have to leave all of your attachments and ties to the human world in order to learn and be truly committed. And he said anyone truly committed to his family or God's ways are today seen as cults and a threat to all of those above social norms and systems.
I think he has something a little reversed.
Again, the isolationism that he pushed. You have to leave everything. You have to be devout and follow me, and I can teach you the way. And his final doctrine is that, and this doctrine was repeated from mid 1970s all the way to the early 90s, is that the end days are coming.
He must have been holding that cardboard sign on the side of the road for quite a while saying the end is coming.
What's interesting about Heaven's Gate is that they were never like that. They held speaking engagements. They taught people. They went to universities. Don't forget, in one of our previous episodes, when they went to Oregon and they spoke at a church, over 30 people just deserted their families to join them. They weren't just like weird people on the side of the road. Like, they weren't like Westboro Baptist Church with their religion, holding up their weird signs and yelling at people.
Or like the homeless person that should have a wellness check.
Almost all of them were very highly educated, middle-class people with good jobs. We had computer programmers, data analysts, engineers, computer engineers. I mean, we had some very, very smart people in this group. So they weren't just these crazy castaways that were standing on the side of the street screaming at you. So let's talk about how it all starts going down and how exactly did Hale-Bopp get involved?
Good question.
So on July 23rd of 1995, the news hit the wires. 2 astronomers discovered a comet which would go on to be named after them, and that was Hale-Bopp. The news was constant for more than 18 months that it would be viewable with the naked eye. And do you remember that, Jackie?
I saw it. I saw Hale-Bopp.
Mm-hmm, I did too.
It went right over Arizona when I mean, this is in the 90s, and it was all over the news that they believed that in the tail of Hale-Bopp there was
a UFO.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to know more about it. My eyes were always in the sky. I was obsessed with X-Files, you know, so it was very interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. And then the most important event in all of this. In November of 1996, Chuck Schrammick, a Houston, Texas-based amateur astronomer, took a CCD image of Hale-Bopp. And in the frame, directly behind the comet, was an oblong-shaped object that appeared slightly blurry, almost like it was moving. It wasn't identified as a star, so what did Schrammick do? He obviously called the Art Bell radio program Coast to Coast AM.
I remember.
And he told them that he had discovered a, quote, Saturn-like object trailing behind Hale-Bopp. And it was determined in that moment on air that it had to be a UFO.
It must have been a UFO.
Must have been one, obviously. I mean, how could you think otherwise? And people from the UFO enthusiast communities went batshit. They swarmed on this story. And there was a massive uptick in tourism to Roswell, New Mexico, other popular UFO viewing sites in North Carolina and Washington State. I mean, this really got everyone whipped up into a frenzy. So much that Emory University political science professor Courtney Brown also jumped up on the hype train. Professor Brown is one of the most well-known proponents of remote viewing in the world and claims that he has spoken to Jesus, Gandhi, ancient aliens, and other alien civilizations by doing remote viewing. And he too agreed that there was an alien spaceship trailing behind Hale-Bopp. Most people would be like, okay, that's insane. Now, this is a very highly decorated professor at Emory University. And he was very, very, very well respected by most in the UFO enthusiast community. That was pretty much all UFO groupies and enthusiasts needed to continue on with that narrative that there was, in fact, a spaceship trailing along with Hale-Bopp. Now, in October of 1996, Heaven's Gate rented a 9,200 square foot house in Rancho Santa Fe, which is only right outside of San Diego. The group paid $7,000 per month in rent.
Back in 95, 96?
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I know San Diego is expensive. Don't get me wrong, but dang.
Yeah. $7,000 a month in rent. And they ended up calling the mansion the monastery. Crazily enough, though, the $7,000 a month per rent was easily affordable based solely on the income that they were making from their web design.
That's right. They were making $450K a year.
Yeah, on average. 5 months later, between March 19th and 20th of 1997, Marshall Applewhite taped himself in a tape called Doe's Final Exit. It's available in full online if you want to watch it. I highly suggest you do so. It is really fascinating. But many of the other members also recorded their final exit interviews.
And this is when crazy becomes sad.
Yeah, it's just heartbreaking. And all of those most of the exit interviews are actually available on YouTube if you want to watch them.
So fascinating.
It is, and it's so sad that these people know what's coming. They know what they're going to do. They know all of it. And they're just happy as can be, just trying to reassure family members and press and other people that they are doing exactly what they want to do.
And a lot of them sacrifice their sexuality and everything too.
Yep.
They sacrifice everything in their lives. They gave up everything. They abandoned their families. They even went as far as going to Mexico and getting castrated.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
They cut off their penises.
And there's no exact date of when Marshall Applewhite took, I believe, 6 men or 7 other men, not including himself, to get castrated. But they went to Mexico and they got castrated. They went through a surgical procedure. And the way that they've discovered this is after the bodies were found, the coroner and the medical examiners, when they were doing the examinations, he found a bunch of men who were castrated. And the wounds, like the healing, it had actually been healed for a long time. Like it wasn't fresh.
And it was a professional job.
It was a professional surgical job.
Oh my God.
Applewhite actually mailed out copies of the tapes that he and his members made to a variety of different outlets, also to former and affiliated individuals. So the BBC got one, as did CBS News. And member Richard D'Angelo, now he had left the group but still remained affiliated. Heaven's Gate actually had a lot of group members who supported the group but couldn't leave their families for whatever reason or another. So they would actually send in money. So don't forget, that's a conundrum in itself. Marshall Applewhite says, you will not be pure and make it to the true kingdom if you can't give up your earthly tetherings. Yet he would happily accept the money of supporters and members who still did just that.
But what's a cult without a contradiction?
Exactly.
There's always an exception for more money.
Now, this Richard D'Angelo, he had left the group but still was affiliated and supported them. He was still a member, okay? Now, on March 21st, Hale-Bopp made its closest approach to Earth. And to celebrate, Heaven's Gate had its Last Supper. The final meal was identical for all 39 followers. A Marie Callender's turkey pot pie, followed by blueberry cheesecake, and washed down with unsweetened iced tea.
I'm really upset about the pot pie. I would not want that to be my last meal.
Oh my God, I'm mostly upset about the unsweet tea. I so dare any of you, if my last drink is unsweet tea, I will haunt everyone.
I love unsweet tea, and you're on the opposite spectrum of that, and most people are, but I do love me some blueberry cheesecake.
That does sound delicious.
Yeah, but like pot pie.
That is disgusting.
That is not a last meal.
No, and unsweet tea is the largest travesty here. But I digress.
I mean, I'd be fine with that. But everything else, no.
Yeah.
No.
So they went to Costco, bought 39 Marie Callender's frozen turkey pot pies.
They went to Costco?
I don't know. I'm just making that up.
I wouldn't know. I'm like, wow, that's very cost effective.
They went to Costco wearing their Snuggies, got their pot pies, and went home. Not trying to make jokes out of this, guys, but seriously, the unsweet tea is a real travesty here.
It's hard not to make jokes.
It is. Now, on March 24th, Applewhite's plan went into action. And contrary to what you might have heard, the group actually did not simultaneously commit suicide in one single night. They actually did it over a period of 3 days in groups.
What?
So on the evening of March 24th, in a show of unity, all members of Heaven's Gate put on black sweatsuits and Nike Decades shoes. They put on armband patches that said Heaven's Gate Away Team. They each had $5.75 in their pockets. Now, $5 was the amount to pay San Diego's vagrancy fine at the time, because don't forget that all of the Heaven's Gate members, how they all had the same haircut, like a bowl cut, a very light bowl cut. They all wore the same clothes, the same outfits. So the San Diego police actually frequently mistook them for homeless people. And they also had the 75 cents, and that was in quarters to make phone calls. 15 of them on day one ingested phenobarbital and hydrocodone mixed into pudding or applesauce, and then they chased that down with vodka.
Isn't that crazy? They're like, wait, you can't have drugs or anything, and here they are.
Yeah, exactly. Complete contradiction yet again.
Oh.
They climbed into their bunk beds, and then the remaining members draped a purple cloth over their chests and then tied plastic bags around their heads. Obviously, that brought on asphyxiation, and they died. So on night one, 15 members died. The next day brought the same. 15 more members dead in bunk beds with plastic bags tied around their heads.
You know what's devastating about this is that a lot of these people probably had some brilliant minds too.
A lot of them did. Day 3, on March 26th, the final night, 9 more died. Marshall Applewhite was the 7th to die on the 3rd day, followed only by the 2 women who helped him. And remember a moment ago, I was talking about Rio D'Angelo, the member who received the copy of the tapes?
Yeah.
He received them the evening of March 26th, the third night, the night that everybody is now dead. And in the package was a letter talking about how they had left their vessels. So the next morning, he went to the Rancho Santa Fe house and entered through a back door that had been purposely left open. He wanted to see and kind of check it out and see if something, what was going on. And he discovered the bodies of his fellow Heaven's Gate members. Then he decided to call the police. So that day, March 27th at 3:15 p.m., San Diego's 911 center got a call. The caller said, "Yes, I need to report an anonymous tip. Who do I talk to?" 911 operator said, "Okay, this is regarding what?" And then the caller said, "This is regarding a mass suicide and I can give you the address," which he did. And so they dispatched one sad, lowly deputy to the house to check it out. And he said in an interview later that when he opened the door, he was overpowered by a pungent odor. It was near 100 degrees that day.
Oh, no.
And some of the bodies had been deceased for 3 days.
Oh, no.
So decomposition had actually already begun to set in.
Oh, no.
Obviously, a whole team of police arrived at the scene, and the news. Do you remember the day it happened? Like, it was everywhere.
Oh, it was in the news forever.
So they also found a blue binder. Marshall Applewhite had actually written a detailed plan, like step A, step B. He had the members sign it. basically showing and detailing how the group killed themselves and why they did it. It had been really, really meticulously planned out. After they went over the crime scene, the bodies were loaded into a truck and taken to the coroner's office. All 39 bodies were cremated. There were 21 women and 18 men, and the ages ranged from 26 to 72.
Wow, that's quite the age range.
What we were just talking about, this was an absolute media circus. Media mogul and husband of Jane Fonda, Ted Turner, I mean, everybody knows who Ted Turner is, like media superstar, said, quote, "It was a good way to get rid of a few nuts."
Oh, come on.
Which was really controversial.
Yeah, that's very insensitive.
Very insensitive. And then Bill Clinton, who was president at the time, in his weekly radio address said, quote, "Let us also remember there are some Americans who feel isolated from all the rest of us, sometimes with truly tragic consequences, like the events just outside San Diego, which have so stunned us all this week." Now, something else that I wasn't aware of. After their deaths, investigators found a rented warehouse near the group's home. And there, the FBI found 5 handguns, 3 rifles, ammunition.
What?
Yeah. Apparently, at one point, the group had such a cache of weapons. Like, we're talking dozens of handguns, many rifles, and a shit ton of ammunition. And Applewhite was actually scared of police because of what had happened at Waco, Texas. And he instilled in all of his members, don't let anyone know, try to stay away from police because they will kill you. Apparently, they had all these weapons, and then he was like, no, I don't want these anymore. He was actually scared of them. So they started selling a lot of them off. And so the FBI found like the remaining bits.
Oh, that's insane. That's like, I just can't believe that they even had a cache.
I know.
I just don't see them capable of it. It just seems like, oh, there's just sci-fi nerds, you know, who went way too far. They listened to the wrong guy, and here they are. Mm-hmm. I have to say, I didn't expect that. Of all of us, I didn't expect the cache of weapons. I'm sorry.
No, I know. So a year after the suicide, San Diego tried to auction off some of the members' property as a way to reimburse family members for funeral expenses. None of the families were aware that these members, that their children, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, grandchildren were going to kill themselves. All of a sudden, that day on March 27th, they just got a call after police identified them.
How terribly sad is that?
Well, identified most of them. I believe that at the end of the day, on the day that they found them, there were 9, I believe, unidentified. Now everyone is, accounted for.
Yeah. I know I'm joking around a lot and stuff because, the beliefs are crazy. That's why I'm joking. I'm joking about the belief system, not the fact that they died because of it. And it's just so sad how many people were impacted by this.
Countless.
So many.
Now, Heaven's Gate members Mark and Sarah King had done a lot of audio-video work for the group, and they attempted to sue the city of San Diego because of the auctions. They said that they had been chosen by Marshall Applewhite directly to safeguard the religious teachings and hundreds of videotapes that were there. They ended up settling out of court with the city of San Diego and bought the writings, artwork, and other items for $2,000.
That's so little.
And all they had to do was promise that they wouldn't profit off of any of it. But that being said, if you want to see memorabilia of Heaven's Gate in person, the bunk beds and shrouds from the mansion that were used in their suicides are currently on display at the Museum of Death in Hollywood, California.
What? Are you serious?
They even have some mannequins that are wearing some of the sweatsuits taken off of some of the bodies.
What?
Yeah.
I'm like shocked and intrigued and disgusted, but at the same time I want to go see it.
Yeah. The home where this happened, the one in Rancho Santa Fe, sometimes high profile murders will improve your property value. In this one, it tanked it. They could not sell the home. That home, that mansion, actually ended up getting demolished.
What?
They built a new home on top of it, and then they actually legally changed the name of the street as a whole.
Oh my God.
So unless you actually have to search for that information.
I guess it makes sense in a way. Such a high profile mass suicide.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to garner a lot of attention, a lot of tourism. I mean, California already has a lot of tourists.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this case has just become, everyone knows, even if you didn't grow up in the 90s, people, in their 20s or even younger, people know what Heaven's Gate is. And they know of it because of popular culture. It's been in South Park, Family Guy, Deadpool even makes fun of it. Lots and lots and lots of bands and rappers and musicians have sampled Applewhite's final tape, the one, again, that we drew the opening quote from. There are countless songs, too, called just Marshall Applewhite.
They also do like a throwback to it in Invader Zim. Like a mention of it.
Yeah, they do. I mean, this has just become synonymous with just, if you think cult, it's either Jim Jones or Heaven's Gate.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty much usually one of the two.
It's hard for this to not become one of the most popular examples of a cult because it has the worst case scenario involved where people gather together and that's it. They kill themselves.
And what's so interesting is that these people did it willingly. And like Jackie just said, there were some brilliant minds here. This wasn't just poor, downtrodden people with nothing left to lose or, minorities, like it wasn't the case of Jim Jones, looking for, a better quality and utopia.
Or commune of some sort,
Yeah, exactly. To live out a perfect world. This was, for lack of better phrasing, this was your sci-fi fans, your Star Trek, Star Wars, X-Files, alien enthusiasts. These are people who were typically great at computers, and they all shared this interest where they felt like completely outcasts. Like they were outcasts by a lot of society.
Oh, yeah.
Based solely on their interests, unfortunately. I never saw mention. I have read probably over 1,000 hours of Heaven's Gate stuff at this point. I have never once seen Marshall Applewhite mention sexuality, other than just generically, right? Like homosexuality, shall I say, in any of his teachings. I've never seen it or watched it. But it's so clear that his own self-loathing is why all of this was put into fruition to begin with.
Well, he had the background, right, to be like a minister or a pastor, of any sort, some sort of like leadership in a religious society. It doesn't matter which. He still had the background where he could have led in anything just because of his father, and he knew the Bible. Come on, this guy knew religion, and his manifestation of that became this.
Yep.
And he's like, I cannot figure out why I just can't have sex with other men.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to lead all these people into this weird, twisted world of self-restriction.
Yeah.
Just extreme self-restriction and castration station and mind control. In a lot of ways, it's a controlling. I mean, these people should have had a better Last Supper. That's insane. I would have been like, hey, like people who are in prison get a better Last Supper. At least they get to choose.
They had no choice. The members had absolutely no choice. Now, I do have to state, though, that Marshall Applewhite never, ever, ever, ever held people against their will. They had the freedom to come and go. So someone could be like, I'm out, and they could just walk away and leave.
No, I wonder how many of these people had pre-built in suicidal ideation.
A couple that I've read, a lot of the families, and there are a lot of articles out there where the victims' families will do a profile on them, what kind of person they were before they left.
Yeah.
And some of them had depression. Most of them, either it wasn't observed, or they had no idea, or they were just perfectly happy. A lot of, again, the members of Heaven's Gate were UFO enthusiasts. So they really believed in the ancient alien theory and Star Trek. Apparently, Star Trek itself became one of the biggest influences into pretty much like all of this. And a fun fact, Nichelle Nichols, whom many of you may know as playing Lieutenant Uhura in the original Star Trek series, her brother, ironically enough, was one of the dead in Heaven's Gate.
No, I didn't know that. Oh my gosh.
And she's spoken about it too. Like her brother, one of the most iconic actresses to ever be in, or actors to ever be in Star Trek. I mean, her role was revolutionary for Black women. And sadly enough, her brother ended up joining Heaven's Gate.
Yeah, she was on Star Trek in like 1967, something like that.
She's the absolute classic. And her brother died in Heaven's Gate. He committed suicide.
Oh, that's so sad.
So incredibly sad. But it's just, that's the full Heaven's Gate story, guys. The last point I'm going to leave you with is that Heaven's Gate website is still active. It is still up and it is current. They still have followers today.
What?
There are at least 3 people involved with their website that are keeping it alive, and they it's more or less kind of like a memorial, right? To like the original beliefs, because they still do believe that Marshall Applewhite was the teacher. And so now they're without their teacher. But they do, in fact, and they will write you back if you email them.
What? Really? No, that doesn't mean we're encouraging you to harass them, okay? 'Cause
No.
who knows, right?
But Mark and Sarah King, the members who sued the city of San Diego, they are, in fact, keeping the website alive, along with one or more additional people. So the dream is still alive, apparently.
That's so sad. I've seen interviews of some of the people who still follow it. One guy in particular. And he was sad that he missed the Ascension.
Well, here's the thing, too. So there were 39 members who died in the home who committed suicide. And then, like, the week after, there was a lone straggler who went to a hotel room and committed suicide because he was also sad and upset that he didn't make it.
Wow.
And yeah, Jackie and I watched a couple documentaries on Heaven's Gate, and a lot of the members who had, say, left or went back home or were still active members who didn't kill themselves, who didn't commit suicide, they were really devastated by it. By the fact that they missed it.
The one guy that we saw the interview with, I don't recall his name right now, but the one guy we saw the interview with, he spoke about how he went through the castration.
Mm-hmm.
So he's lived his life since then with no penis. And he is deeply saddened by the fact that he missed it and he still believes in all of it.
All of it.
It just blows my mind. I can't believe that's even a thing, to be honest with you. I can't believe people even register this as a way of life.
Yeah, they do. Now that Marshall Applewhite is gone, I don't know how many people actively try to live it or bring it back, but yeah, it is still up. If their website is still active and it has all of their teachings, it has some of the videos, it has a lot of the old school. I mean, it still looks like it's in its original state from the 90s.
When you look in from the outside, when you see something like so crazy as this, you want to joke about it. You want to make it into this huge joke. But I also like Star Wars, so I'm a freak, I guess, because you're apparently not allowed to like both.
Yeah, don't join Heaven's Gate, please.
Right? Wait.
But at the end of the day, people laugh about it, and don't get me wrong, some of their beliefs are absolutely hysterical, hence why we're able to crack jokes at it. But at the end of the day,
it hurt people.
39 people lost their lives, and that impacts just thousands of people, really, at the end of the day, have been impacted by this group.
It's really hard to fathom, actually, especially with the current state. We have 200,000 people have died from coronavirus. I can't imagine the branch of how many people are impacted by that alone, too, And it really puts, like, worldly things in perspective when you look at something so insane and being like, that has nothing to do with me. This isn't my world. But you have to have a heart,
So that's the story of Heaven's Gate, guys.
We have ascended.
Don't forget, you can find us on Instagram at We Saw the Devil Podcast, Facebook and Twitter at We Saw the Devil, and our website, wesawthedevil.com. Again, if you would like to support the show and join the team, you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/We Saw the Devil, and you can join for as little as $3 a month and get all sorts of true crime goodies, postcards from around the world, ad-free episodes, and access to our private Facebook group where you can actually help pick shows and episodes. Thanks again so much for listening, guys.
Until next crime.